إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وَكُلَّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ وَكُلَّ ضَلَالَةٍ فِي النَّارِ. My dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you back to our Hajj presentation, and today is tonight is the night of the 3rd of Dhul Qa'dah, 1444 years after the Hijrah, the migration of our beloved Prophet Sallallaahu, which coincides with May 22nd, 2023. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make Hajj easy for everybody. Those of our brothers and sisters who are still waiting for confirmation, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from them and accept them as Hujjaj for this year, inshallah ta'ala, or whichever year is easier for them and good for them, inshallah, for their Hajj, for their deen, for this dunya and for the hereafter, inshallah ta'ala. And make all of us, subhanahu wa ta'ala, make all of us, He subhanahu wa ta'ala, go to visit His house again and again for the Hajj and the Umrah and these blessed journeys, inshallah. Today we are going to talk about the mistakes and the bid'ah that are done during the day of the Arafah. First of all, the mistakes of the Arafah. But before this, as you know, my brothers and sisters, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path, is the path of the prophets and the messengers. So when we are talking about the Hajj, the Sirat al-Mustaqim of the Hajj is to learn the manasik of the Hajj from the Sunnah of our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And the Sunnah is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, he didn't speak from his desires, in huwa illa wahyu yuha. Because whatever he said, did, wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it is part of the religion, it is wahi, revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is nothing that will bring us close to Allah, and there is nothing which will keep us away from the punishment of Allah, except that the Prophet ﷺ clarified it and clarified it clearly to his companions, and his companions understood it as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted them to, so that the pristineness of this message will reach us after all of these years, inshallah, until the day of judgment. Anybody who wants to follow the Sunnah, the religions will be preserved. This is the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Then we have the turuq, or the ways which will take us away from the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And those are the things, so that we don't fall on those turuq, on those ways, especially in the Hajj and Umrah. Of course, we do not follow the evil way at any time, but especially in the Hajj and Umrah, we're talking about specifically the mistakes and the bid'ah. So that somebody who goes there and he sees a lot of Muslims doing something and he says, oh wow, I didn't know this is part of Hajj, let me do it too, so that I'll get the reward. It doesn't work like that. That's why when we learn the Hajj, you will be able to figure out the things which are people do, that's a part of the Sunnah of the Prophet. So let's first talk about the mistakes. First, entering Arafah in the night of the 9th, when he or she is supposed to stay that portion of the night until the Fajr in Mina. Some of these groups, as we mentioned to you before, that they take the Hujjaj on the night, in the night instead of the day, to avoid the traffic and avoid the headache. He says the Sunnah, not the Sunnah. If somebody did it, it is Hajj Sahih, but this is not the correct way to do it. Second, staying outside the border of the Arafah. This will nullify the Hajj. If somebody is staying outside the border of the Arafah and not in the Arafah, even if it is done forgetfully or unintentionally, his Hajj or her Hajj will not be counted. So this is very, very important. A third, not making the talbiya loudly. A lot of people, you will see them, they are just saying the talbiya in the mind, or not even doing that. The talbiya should continue until the throwing of the stone on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. And this should be done loudly by men and women as much as possible. Spending the first part of the day chatting, gossiping, backbiting. And then before the sunset, just stand there and make some dua. This is not the sunnah. The sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ, as you know, that he waited in Namirah, we spoke about it, which is outside Arafah. Then after the Zawal, he entered and he went to Batni Orana, the valley of the Orana, and he prayed the Dhuhr and Asr, and he gave the khutbah. And then he went and stationed himself in the foot of the mountain and stayed there until the sunset to make dua. This is the sunnah. Rushing and crowding. Now, again, we also mentioned that if somebody is tired, wants to take rest, all of this is fine. But the majority of the time should be spent making dua, as the Prophet clarified with his action. Rushing and crowding to go to Masjid Namirah to pray behind the Imam, the Dhuhr and Asr, and to listen to the khutbah, thinking that this is part of Arafah. So people go and rush, and that makes them tired, hungry, thirsty. Sometimes they lose the path, the direction, and this is not needed. To go to Namira and to pray Dhuhr and Asr is not absolutely needed. The best is you stay with your group, you go to your tent, you pray the Dhuhr and Asr with the group, inshallah, and you focus in making dua, inshallah, standing wherever you can, whatever easy for you. All the Arafah is mawqif. All the Arafah is the place of station. Thinking that it is a must to go to Jabal Ar-Rahmah and stand where the Prophet stood. So they think that I should be going there. No, you don't have to. If you go, that's wonderful, but you don't have to. Thinking that the shrubs of Arafah has a special ruling that like the trees and shrubs of Muzdalifah and Mina. Now, we spoke about this in the quiz in the last section, if you remember. The trees and the shrubs of Arafah has no special ruling. Why? Because Arafah is not in the haram. It is outside the haram. Whereas Muzdalifah and Mina is inside the haram. So we are not supposed to uproot the shrubs and cut the trees, branches, leaves, and so on and so forth in the haram. And Muzdalifah and Mina are part of haram. But Arafah is not. So regardless whether we are in a haram or not in a haram, whenever we are in the haram, we are not supposed to do that. So a Hujjaj does not touch anything from the shrubs and the trees of the haram, not because of his ihram, but because he is in the holy sanctuary, in the haram. Now in the Arafah, you are in ihram, but a muhrim can cut trees and uproot shrubs and do this kind of things. A muhrim is allowed for him to do that. But why doesn't he do it in Muzdalifah and Mina, in Makkah and in the haram? Because we have the ruling of the haram. And if you remember in the beginning, that's why I spoke about the 3 boundaries. So if you are aware of that fact, there should be no confusion. Facing the mountain, even though the Qibla is on the right or left or behind. So if this is the mountain and this is the Qibla, when you're standing on this part of the mountain, yes, you're going to face the mountain and the Qibla. And that's what exactly happened to the Prophet. But if I'm standing here, the Qibla is there. So I should be facing that direction. The mountain is on my left hand side, but the people, they face the mountain. If I'm here, I should be straight, but they face right. So depending on wherever they are, they just, or if they are here, the Qibla is on their back, but they are showing their back and facing the mountain. This is a mistake. This is a mistake because we are supposed to face the Qibla. But is it an obligation? No. But these are mistakes. And if you want to do it according to Sunnah, the mountain should be in our focus. The focus should be the Qibla. Leaving Arafah before sunset. Again, some of these Hujjaj groups, what they do is they keep their group for some time in Arafah, which is okay, and then they take them early. So they are making them lose a lot of reward, because the Sunnah is to wait until the sunset. After the sunset, you go to Muzdalifah. So these are the mistakes. But some of these mistakes, of course, will not invalidate your Hajj, except if you are outside the boundary of the Arafah. But again, these mistakes are important to know so that we can preserve the Sunnah. Okay. The next are the innovations of the Arafah. Number 1, considering Jabal Ar-Rahmah sacred and believing in stories about this mountain that has no foundation in the religion. Jabal Ar-Rahmah is nothing special. It's just a place there. Prophet stood there and made dua. Climbing Jabal Ar-Rahmah to pray on top of it, taking blessings from it. This will even lead to shirk. lighting candles, saying special dua, dhikr on Jabal Ar-Rahmah, uh, hanging papers, notes, strings on the trees and shrubs of the mountain. These are the Hindu ways, the mushrik ways that the people do that in those countries. Sometimes they write down their name, thinking that if they write down their name in this blessed mountain, Allah will bless and Allah's mercy will. All of this is khurafat. Considering climbing Jabal Ar-Rahmah as a nusuk of the Hajj. These are all bidat. Taking shower on the day of Arafah. Now, if somebody wants to take a shower because he's feeling hot or feeling sweaty, that's not a problem. To make it the sunnah of the day of Arafah is when it becomes bidah. If Arafah falls on Friday, considering that this Hajj is Akbari Hajj, and they say that this Hajj, the reward of this Hajj is 70 or 72 times more rewarding than the Hajj where the Arafah did not fall on Friday. And in our culture, they call it the Akbari Hajj. Is there something like this? Nothing like this. Nothing like this. All Hajj are same, whether the Arafah falls on Friday or doesn't fall on Friday. Claiming Allah descends on the night of Arafah. Yeah, Allah descends on the last third part of the night, every night, whether it is the night of Arafah or it doesn't matter. But there is nothing special to associate with the nuzul of Allah on Arafah, unless we have an evidence. Saying Tahleel 100 times, Surah Al-Ikhlas 100 times, and Salat upon the Prophets 100 times on this day. Somebody would say, what is wrong in this? I'm just saying La ilaha illallah 100 times. I'm just saying Surah Al-Ikhlas, reciting Quran 100 times. I'm saying Durud Sharif upon the Prophet 100 times. So if somebody is recommending to me to do this, why you are saying this is wrong? This is wrong because this type of prescription cannot be given by anybody except the Prophet. Yes, La ilaha illallah, to say La ilaha Muhammad Rasulullah, it is part of the deen. Ikhlas, Surah Al-Ikhlas is part of a religion. Saying Salat upon the Prophet is part of a religion. All of these things are there. But to take them out and to design them this certain way and to prescribe them, and people are doing this is what leads to the bidah. But if somebody just recites some Quran and happens to be there Surah Al-Ikhlas or whatever, and they don't specify things for the Arafah for this reason, there's no problem. Okay, so we need to understand the definition of bidah, because sometimes people don't understand these things. They think that we are extreme. Those who call this bidah, they're extreme. We are not extreme. This is the asl of the religion. But unfortunately, nowadays, a lot of people, they call themselves Sunni and they don't understand what is Sunnah and what is bidah and how to detect what is a bidah. These are the bidah. You will say they will give you books, and these books have a lot of du'as. On this station, say this dua. On that station, say this dua. Say this many times. Say that many times. The wordings, as we mentioned many times, the wordings are beautiful. There's no problem in the wording. But this prescription, specifying with special words and recommending you and sometimes obligating you to do these things is what is the bidah. Why? Because our Prophet ﷺ didn't leave anything that will bring us close to Allah except that he explained it. The Prophet did not specify any long dua or short surah or long surah to be said on a certain time, certain times on the day of Arafah. So why are we doing this? Isn't it sunnah enough? He kept it open. You want to recite some Quran, recite some Quran. You want to recite the Durud Sharif, recite Durud. You want to recite La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la lahul mulk wa lahul hamd, takbir and tahleel and talbiya is part of the Hajj anyway. So do that. But don't prescribe the certain number at a certain time, because this is what will lead to bidah. So a note here I put, any special written dua, big or small, any special surah or ayah prescribed X number of times to be said on this or any other occasion of the Hajj, okay, do not fall for these things. Do not fall for these things. This is how the bid'ah and the innovations are spread. Apparently they look good, but in reality they have no foundation in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Anything that the Prophet ﷺ didn't define, didn't prescribe, although he had the ability to do so. Didn't the Prophet ﷺ know about Surah Al-Ikhlas? He is the one who taught us La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. He is the one who taught Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. You know all of these things. If saying these things a certain number of times on Arafah or any other times during the Hajj or other times was good for us, he would have told us. But he didn't tell us, which means the deen is complete. We don't have to prescribe our own things. So if you see people prescribing these things and they're defining it in a certain way, and they're making people follow these things, know that all of these are for sure, innovation of the religion, innovation in the religion. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, كُلُّ مُحْدَثَةٍ بِدْعَةٍ, all newly invented matters will lead to innovation in the religion. وَكُلُّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ, and all bid'ah will lead to misguidance. وَكُلُّ ضَلَالَةٍ فِي النَّارِ, and all dalala, misguidance, will lead to hellfire. Why are we going to Hajj? We are going to Hajj so that we can shed our sin. But these people, they sometimes force us to commit sin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Sayyidina Ibrahim and Ismail alayhi salam, Tahira baytiya, purify the house, purify the Kaaba, purify the house of Allah. From what? From shirk, from bid'ah. And these people, once we go to the haram, they load us with these books and these pages which are full of nothing from the Prophet ﷺ, except their own innovations. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from this khudlan and from these deviations. And we ask Allah to turn our face towards the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and make our heart be satisfied with whatever is there. Because if this qana, it says peace and satisfaction is not there with the sunnah, nothing will satisfy us. All of these things will fall into. You will hear all of these things over there. Somebody will hand you a book. You're going to open the book and keep on reading it. This is unfortunately the tradition of the Muslims became. We have to break that. And we have to submit ourselves to what the Prophet ﷺ prescribed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our Hajjul Mabrur, give us the ability to go there again and again for this blessed journey. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.